Just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if it's sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
That's right, it's Bad Weather Fans, episode number 118. Mike Biseglia, Alex Benezowitz, and I am not in my normal location. Alex, in your off-site location as we record. So if you're watching this on Zoom and YouTube, it looks like we're in two different places that you're not used to, but it is what it is. Yeah. How you doing, Alex? What's going on, man? How's everything?
I'm good. How are you? It looks like you're away. You're having some good times, you know.
Yeah, I am away. I am in Beach Haven, New Jersey on a little family vacation, and we're in an Airbnb, so I'm recording this in the bedroom. That's right.
Nice. I said before we record, it looks like you're floating in the air the way you're sitting. You're like flying through the air. Anybody's watching this on YouTube?
Not the normal location, of course. I'm on a stool. And then I have the computer. I'll tweet out a photo so people can see what this looks like. I'm on I put the table side for the bed table side, whatever those things are called, where the table sits next to the bed. Where you
night
put
table.
Yeah, the night table where you put your glasses, you put your water, you put whatever you're finishing your night with. I put that with two yoga blocks that my wife uses to get my computer up because I put it down originally. You could see my chin; it looks so fat, I couldn't do it. So that's kind of the location. That's kind of the setup here.
It's all about angles, you know.
It is, man. It is all about angles. You taught me that. You're very good at that.
I'm very close in because if you see what I look like, then I stood up, you would not be too. No, I'm just kidding. It's just
this happens
like sitting
sometimes.
forward. I like being in the action and like right near the screen. So, but anyway, have you been watching these conference finals? Been into them at all? Or
I mean, it's still a little depressing for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure I have to get over it. I'm sure people would be like, "Stop being such a baby." It's the Heat doing Heat type things, culture playing, doing well. Had a huge lead versus the Celtics. Boston made it really interesting in the fourth quarter. Just came up short. Marcus Smart and him coming back and all those fun things with this
fake injuries. No
Celtics. Tatum struggling in that game. It's everything I thought it would be. And it's funny because I think after every game, momentum shifts. Like, this is the team that's going to win. Remember, the Celtics were down 2-1 to the Bucks and did come back and win. The Miami team is much better than Milwaukee, but just because it's 2-1 doesn't mean this series is over. I think Warriors Mavs, at 3-0 now, that's over. That's a different story. So we know the Warriors are going to be making it to the finals. And at this point, it's still anyone's series in the East. I really wouldn't put it past the Celtics that they could come back and win this thing. I mean, they've been doing this all season long, right? They were bad to start the year at 15-18. They were down 2-1 to the Bucks. So they've seen everything at this point. I wouldn't put them past them if they came back and did win the series.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them either. But they're getting a little nicked up, and the Heat are just a machine right now. They are like one for all for one kind of moment there. They are not. They're not going to back down. They have probably the best coach in the NBA right now, and they're set. And they were just in the finals a couple of years ago. It was in the bubble, so people don't really count it. But they were there. They went through the wars. Most of those guys are still there. And you got Oladipo giving good minutes, and they're kind of a scary team. I think it's almost like set in stone. It's not set in stone, but it feels like we're headed towards the Warriors Heat finals, which is going to be really, really good. You had defense versus offense, East Coast versus West Coast, like classic, those kinds of teams. It's going to be fun. So it really is.
I was like so right and then so wrong on the Heat. And I would text this to you all the time. When I said before the year started early on, I said the Heat are the scariest team. The Heat are the scariest team. And then I fell off the bandwagon after the Knicks beat the crap out of them and the Nets beat the crap out of them. That was the low point for the Miami Heat really this season. Think about all these teams. Like, the low point for the Celtics was losing to the Knicks. The low point to the Heat was losing to the Knicks. I know they lost to the Nets the next night. The Heat, so the Knicks have been involved in like all these weird, beating up on these great basketball teams this season. But I was dead wrong on the Heat in the second part. I believed in them early, then fell off it when they went on that losing streak, and I was incorrect. I mean, they've been fantastic. Obviously now 2 wins away, and they show me everything that the Nets don't have with guys like a PJ Tucker. Just dudes that can that can show up in big moments. Like, look at this guy who's on the Bucks last year, who won a championship. Now he's on the verge of going to the finals again. You know, everybody gets like, his stats aren't this, his stats aren't that, but it's not a coincidence that good players like that, high level role players, seem to find themselves in big spots all the time.
Yeah, PJ Tucker, Danny Green, you know, it used to be James Posey or Robert Ory. It was always those guys, you know, that were
everywhere they
on those
went.
good teams. Yeah. And, you know, they become the guy that they want. That when you get good, they join your team because they know that they're battle tested championship caliber players and things like that. You know, I'm starting to really appreciate the Warriors, kind of like I tweeted this out the other day at Knicks Central, where it's kind of like I'm really appreciating the Warriors this time around, because before, you know, I really just hated them because they were good and they were cocky. And then they got Durant and like one of the corniest moves that, you know, even you would admit that was kind of like corny to leave a 3-1 team, a team that you just were beating 3-1 in the series and then come back and join the 73-9 team, you know, so that, you know, whatever. So there was a lot of hatred there from a lot of people for the Warriors, you know, but now that they took 2 years, they were down, they were injured, they come back. And now I'm really starting to appreciate Steph and Clay. And, you know, I don't know about Draymond, but I'm starting to really appreciate these guys a lot. And it's kind of like Jordan with the first 3P, you know, I was young and he was beating up on the Knicks so much. And I just hated his face and everything about it, hated Jordan. And then when he retired for a year and a half and he came back with his, put retirement in air quotes, he came back and, you know, I even though I rooted against them like crazy, I'm just like, wow, I'm watching Michael Jordan. You know, so like, let me start appreciating this a little bit and just so I can remember it without, you know, so much hatred, you know, so that's where I'm at right now with the Warriors. So I'm kind of team Warriors right now.
Yeah. Well, again, give them credit because of the way they rebuilt the roster and were able to get really good, really fast. I mean, there's the second pick in the draft and James Weissman's not playing. They drafted well in getting Jordan Poole. And then Clay
Wiggins,
comes back they make you know, look at this, for example, they lose Durant, but they turn that into D'Angelo Russell. Russell's then flipped for Wiggins. So even though they lose one of their superstar players in Durant, they're able to at least get an asset back. And Andrew Wiggins isn't Kevin Durant. We'll never pretend that, but he's a nice puzzle piece. He was an all-star this year. He did get the votes, although that was a whole quirky thing. But obviously, he's a very good, high-level NBA player, not living up to the hype of the number one pick, but a guy that fills out a roster nicely and has played a big impact on these Golden State Warriors. So give them credit there. And I thought it was funny when you brought up, like, even you would admit what Durant did there was what was silly. But, yeah, of course. I mean, he left Oklahoma City when he had a 3-1 lead. Him and Russ couldn't close the deal. He goes to the team that won those games. And then they put him over the top for a couple of championships. My response to that will be like, yeah, but that I don't care about Durant, Golden State, and the people it pissed off. Once he comes on your team, that's all you care about. I don't care about the past. I care about what's in front. And that's
I didn't want you to take it as I just didn't want you to take it as a troll shot because it wasn't that. It was just a corny move. I could beat up someone to join them kind of thing.
Yeah,
everybody knows that.
Dude, as somebody that was in sports talk radio in the heart of it, then I can't tell you how many times this topic of should fans be upset that Kevin Durant left the Thunder and went to, I mean, was like, you know, handmade for everybody. So no, I feel you on that. I do totally understand that. We'll develop this more as we go along further here on Bad Weather Fans, but you had a really good idea to do like a mailbag segment for us. And basically, you know, we're in this point in the season where the finals will be going on shortly. We're waiting for the NBA draft and then free agency. And until then, you know, it's all hypotheticals and rumors and what ifs for our teams. But it's a great way for us to interact with everybody. So you put out a tweet, Alex, asking Bad Weather Fans to give some questions for you and I. We'll develop this more down the road in the summer, and we'll take a lot more. But I thought it was a really good idea and a really good way to interact with our fan base and then to answer some questions from some of our Bad Weather fans.
Bad Weather fans.
Bad Weather fans. Bad Weather F squared. Yes.
Okay. So you want to get to that now? You want to read out the topics, or you want to go 1-1 and then
we could you want to? I mean. Well, I'll let you read out the tweet because it was your tweet, and then I'll read out I'll start with Corey on top, who's on my feed.
Okay. So I said, recording Bad Weather Fans today with Mike Delivers Pod. at Mike Lewis Pod. That's Mike Biseglia. Any topic requests? Best topics will be used on the podcast, and you will get a shout out. Topics involving the Knicks, Nets, Mets, Yankees, Jets, Giants, Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals, or literally anything are welcomed. And by the way, Mets keep winning. I'm pretty happy about that. Yankees are the two best teams in baseball, Yankees and the Mets. That's going to be great as the summer goes on. We'll talk more about that. It's not, not much. It's not that exciting to talk about it here yet, but Scherzer's out. That sucks. But you know what? We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Some baseball talk. We have some guests coming up, lined up coming. So,
and I mean, the only series the Mets have lost this year was versus the Mariners at Citi Field, and Seattle's been slightly below 500. Not a great team. The Mets almost came back in that third game there in the bottom of the ninth, where they left the bases loaded and lost 8-7. I believe Pete Alonso struck out, but they have been just so much fun to follow and to be behind. They haven't lost back-to-back games since they were 5-3.
Yeah,
they just don't lose back-to-back games.
They've won 11 games after a loss this season.
Right,
some kind of not. I don't know what the stat was.
Sure,
but some kind of.
I think you're right.
Stat. Yeah, and the Yankees with Aaron Judge is just he's there was like take the money, you're stupid. And now he's just like, all right, well, if he could stay healthy, then he's gonna get paid like $300 million. It's gonna be crazy. If he could stay healthy, that's always been the key. You know what I mean with him, So who knows?
I don't know about you, Alex, but if I was him in the offseason, I don't have his kind of balls, or I don't have his kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Confidence. If someone was like, hey, here's $200-something million or whatever the hell he was offered, I'd be like, thank you. See you later. I wouldn't be like, I'm going to trust myself and make even more money. Be like, all right, we're done. I could never do that.
Yeah, I mean, it works out for some players. Joe Flacco, it worked out for. He bet on himself, then won a Super Bowl, got a big contract. Guys like, but then guys like Dennis Schroeder bet on themselves, and it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? It could, there are moments where it doesn't work out for a guy. So I understand what you're saying.
Well, how about this one with the Mavs, where they all, they wouldn't give Brunson the deal, and now he's just doubled his contract. I mean, they could have had him, I think it was like 4 years, 55 or somewhere in that ballpark. And then now he's going to get 4 for 100.
Yeah. And that's where we're at with Mitchell Robinson and the Knicks, where they can give him that deal, the 450 something. And there's rumors that he might be gone. Who knows about these rumors from, the never incarcerated Bob, but there's all types of stuff out there. It's just, there's a lot of, this offseason is gonna be crazy. Sorry, we'll get to the mailbag stuff in a second. We're rambling on, but there's all types of stuff out there with like, there's so much potential for big 3-4 team deals this offseason with Levine on a sign and trade, Donovan Mitchell out there. You got the Mavericks need a center. You got the Knicks need players. There's other teams that are out there desperate. The Cavs have a lot of people that they can deal, and with Sexton, is kind of expendable now with Garland stepped up. There's so much potential out for the NBA offseason. The NBA offseason is always the best offseason now. It went over the baseball used to be the best hot stove. That's gone. And then football, because baseball lasts for like 6 months. It's like, oh, here we're ready. And then the people don't sign until like March. You're like,
baseball's
okay, well,
terrible now.
Yeah.
Football's improved dramatically.
Football is, yeah. But football makes it dramatic. They're like 12 o'clock p.m.
But it's gotten better with all these deals that have happened with quarterbacks now being on the move a little bit more. Like this past offseason with all the quarterbacks, and then the carousel that was created and the domino effect when one guy got moved and how it shifted everything over. The football's improved. I'm like you though. I love the NBA stuff and just the wacky deals when trades get done. I mean, the NBA draft. The NBA draft night can be fun. Usually, it's typically a huge letdown, but sometimes there's trades here and there. I'm so excited for it. I mean, the Nets have so many offseason questions. So do the Knicks. We just got to get there. And until then, it's going to be people saying Nick Claxton's getting 3 for 35. My uncle's friends, cousins, brothers told me that. Wait a minute, that's me. Hold on, I got confused in the family tree here. I ended up backing myself. So, who knows? That and like Bruce Brown liked a tweet where he thinks he's getting $15 million a year. I'd probably like that tweet too if someone was telling me I was getting $15 million a year. So,
and LeBron James tweeting out that he would love to play with Kyrie and Durant. Now some Nets fans are joking around, making memes with the and Nets jerseys.
Seriously.
Well, maybe they'll go to the Lakers. You don't know. Who knows what will happen?
You never know. Durant to the Lakers. Get it out. I did watch the Durant Letterman.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was enjoyable. I don't think it was anything like earth shattering, but it was fun.
I liked it. He's got a lot of free time to do that kind of stuff right now.
Well, he recorded this long time ago.
Just kidding.
He does have the free time now. Although he said he takes 2 to 3 weeks off and then he's back in the lab.
That's smart.
Back
That's what,
working out.
Clyde Frazier always talks about that on the broadcast. He always says, whenever a player says, I'm going to be back in the gym tomorrow, it was either like Obi or Quickly they were talking about it, or once the season ends, we're going to be back in the gym the next day. And he's like, that's stupid. He's like, you need a time to take a break, like let your body reset. Like, even if it's a month or 2 or 3 weeks, like the rant where it's just take a vacation. You just get away.
Yeah.
Like,
you really
your body,
do.
you're still you're a professional athlete. You're not going to lose that much muscle mass. You're not going to lose that much. Your body needs a rest,
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
And Durant went to Mike James games. I don't know where he was playing, but he went to overseas games, watched that. That's where he was. There was like in the crowd, like the fans would like set things on fire. It was like, this is a hell of a home court.
I didn't know what that was.
terrifying.
I was like, is this a joke?
Like lighters,
where was it?
something
That was-
weird. I don't know exactly.
That was crazy. He was like
but-
the apocalypse or something. Yeah. I saw
Yes,
that.
yes. You're like, holy shit. Like, yeah. I know Barclays Center, not that loud. Look at
No,
this. They're
nobody's
setting the
that
arena
crazy.
on fire.
No,
Well, I mean, if that was going on in an NBA game, there would be a stoppage.
Yeah.
I think.
What are we doing? Well, they stopped. Remember all the mascots used to do all those crazy acrobatic dunks and things like that off trampolines in halftime, and the Suns
Gorilla.
and the Hornets had somebody. There was always like the Sonics. There was always something that got crazy to the point where the NBA had to be like, okay, guys, like let's calm down here. There's a whole I saw a whole special on that a couple of years ago. It was pretty funny.
On mascots dunking?
Yeah, on all the crazy acrobatic dunks by mascots and shit like that. Yeah,
and you're making fun of Kevin Durant for free time?
Well, hey, listen. Yes.
All right, here we go. All right, first question I have from Corey B. Cantor. He's a good Nets fan and listens to Bad Weather Fans. He starts it off with, I have a good topic for you guys. Well, wait, okay. We'll see about that, Corey. For Knicks and Nets, are these free agents back or not? I feel like the big ones would be Bruce Brown, Claxton, and Mitch Robinson. Would be interesting to hear the debate where Clax sits in terms of how much he's worth, less than Mitch, etc. But he has a follow-up, and I think this is where it's an interesting part of this question. Corey, this is fine, but I think where you go here is a lot better. Also, I'm a Claxton skeptic, so this isn't a Clax versus Mitch argument at all in my view. I want to hear your takes also, and useful to have non-net fan Alex, yes, give a clear-headed views on Bruce Brown and Clax, and then have me give the opinion on Mitch. So sort of do it backwards. You give the net opinion, I give the Nick opinion.
Okay. So Bruce Brown, I mean, I'm not really sure what the whole Nets cap situation. I assume that they're completely capped out. So
it's not good.
It'd be smarter to keep your own guys because you can go over the cap with your own guys. So getting rid of them, unless you do a sign and trade in some kind of way, it would be kind of silly. So, and Bruce Brown fits a role. He plays defense. He can hit the three. Like I don't know why you would get rid of him. Claxton, if you don't think he's going to develop, I wouldn't be opposed to moving him as a Nets in some kind of trade to get something else because he has some kind of value. Bruce Brown's like that average NBA veteran. You can find him a million places, but you have him already under contract. You might as well bring him back. With Claxton, I don't know what he is, and I don't know what his ceiling is, and he might turn into a really good player, a starter one day. But at the same time, if you can get something while his value is high, this might be the time to do it.
What I really like about Bruce Brown is he's only 25 years old. He's still really young. And and when he came to the Nets, he was 22, 23, and he's starting to develop. So to me, Bruce Brown feels like the next iteration of Spencer Dinwiddie, Jarrett Allen, Joe Harris, where you have a younger player. I think because he fit a role and is never going to be a star player. I think because he fit a role with stars around him, he kind of gets lost in that identity or idea. But to me, he's in that same mold of Nets developing young talent and turning them into regular rotation NBA players. With that in mind, I'd love to keep Bruce Brown, especially as he's developed that three-point shot from the corner. He has proved to be a very valuable asset for the Nets. So if I had to rank between the two, I'd go Bruce, then Clax. I agree with you, though. If you're going to re-sign your guys, you're already capped out. You can go above it. The question is, from the Nets, how cheap are they with spending? Are they willing then to make that move? Because they're still going to have to fill out their roster with those veteran minimums that they're going to get. Are they going to not feel as excited about bringing those guys back in because they're already being taxed so much? That's the question for me. I'm like, if they have it, bring back Claxton, because I don't think they're going to bring back Claxton Drummond. They're not going to do both. So you might as well if you're going to pick between the two, I think you go Claxton because of the upside. You take him, you bring back Bruce, and then you make smart decisions with your minimum amount of money that you can, and hopefully you can make some smart trades and bring other guys back. That would be my feelings on that department. I'll then answer the Mitch side of things. I think the Knicks should bring him back. I think just like Clax, I mean, he's so young and still developing, and we saw when he's in the lineup how much of a presence defensively he can be. I don't think he's ever going to be a great player, but he's going to be somebody that they can just plug in for 5 years and is a good enough player where he can just be a rim protector, do the other things, and then build around him from the offensive schematics. Like, what are you going to get offensively from the center position elsewhere? Not everybody has Joel Embiid. I know people were in love with Jericho Sims, but again, he played 12 minutes. You're going to bank all of that, like
the future
of him because he had a good game versus the Nets where he had a couple of rebounds. Seems like a little dicey to me. I think you keep him in line as you build up your young players. But I wouldn't bail on Mitch if it's there. I would sign him.
Me too. And with Mitchell Robinson, that's perfectly said. With him, and we always talk about Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin, guys like that. They need a good point guard in order to really reach their potential. You know, you look at guys like DeAndre Jordan or Amari Stoudemire at the beginning of their careers, where they really benefited from having a Steve Nash or Chris Paul. You know, I know we're not going to get a guy like that this offseason, but I'm saying, you know, if those guys, if they had somebody like that, Mitchell Robinson, if he had somebody like that, you would really see his potential jump. And what scares me the most, it's probably mostly PTSD, but he reminds me of him the most. It's Marcus Camby. Getting rid of Marcus Camby and watching him become Defensive Player of the Year in Denver because he had 2 years where he was injured. And the Knicks got rid of him for McDyess, and they also traded Nene. We all know the story. All the Knicks fans know the story and know the trade. So you get rid of Marcus Camby because his value was low, and you're like, you know what? You know, he's always hurt. He's never going to be healthy. And then he goes into Denver and leads the league in blocks several years, wins the Defensive Player of the Year. Like, yeah, he was never a superstar, but you know what? Denver was pretty damn good with him anchoring the center position, you know, for a long time. And the Knicks were searching for a center for years because of that. With the Daddy Currys and you know, Jerome Jameses and all these guys that came in Mutombo and all these people that just came running through the garden. It was just a mess. So you have your guy, just keep him. And if you sign Mitchell Robinson to that 4-year, $50-something million deal, it won't hurt you from being able to sign RJ to that max extension. It won't hurt you from you don't have to give up on Jericho Sims because you got 4 years, so you got to pay Jericho Sims anyway. So, you know, what are you waiting? What is the point? Unless it's like I mentioned before, you have some crazy blockbuster 2, 3, 4 team deal that's coming where Mitch is involved and you can get something special. Then, you know, okay. He's not untradeable like an RJ Barrett, of course, you know? So that's my take on Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, it's and unless some people's view are he's just not that good and he's injury prone and you might as well use the money in other places. You know, I could hear that side of it if that's the angle you wanted to go with. I think there's too much upside there, and for a reasonable contract, I would go ahead and roll the dice on them. I would do that. If it's the other way, if you feel like, hey, he's just not going to make it, it's not worth it, I'd rather spend the money elsewhere, so be it. You know, it's just funny you see, you know, the Fournier deal, the Kemba deal. It's like, well, Mitch has so much more value from everything he just does from, you know, the defensive side of things, which is, you know, another obvious there. At brain_storms with a Z. How about the Knicks and Nets in the next 5 years? Which team has the brightest future?
So are we talking 5 years from now, or are we talking over the next 5 years? Who's going to be?
I think you say over the next 5, because I think the next 5, like, I think I don't think you could do that with any NBA. Well, I don't know. That'd be a really tough one to do. My guess would be, I mean, I would say in 5 years from now, who's in a better position? I don't know. I mean, that's like a really tough angle. That's a really tough one to answer because the things change so much.
Yeah, it all depends. Also, you could argue the Knicks because they have younger players. In 5 years from now, they could be in a better spot because Durant and Kyrie will be done. You know, you don't know what the Nets will do, but, you know, which the Nets have proved that they could flip and change their whole team and at the drop of a dime if they keep Sean Marks. If he's still here in 5 years, you guys might have had a championship. You know what I mean? So who cares, you know, for you. So it's just, I do think the Knicks could be in a better position because of all the young players. Like if Quickly hits, if RJ hits for real, if they keep Mitchell Robinson, he hits, or if they flip Mitch and get something, the Knicks could be in a better situation. This is a really big offseason for the Knicks where they're still in this building mode. So it's really a tough question to answer and I can't give a definitive answer. But this is a really big offseason for the Knicks. Unlike the Nets, where it's just like, all right, we're talking about Bruce Brown or Nick Claxton. Like the Knicks can make it, like set up the next couple of years of their franchise with the decisions that they make this offseason.
Yeah, I would argue against this idea that the Nets offseason isn't as big because it's these smaller role players, but they're on a championship window where they got to win a title. So for them, they have to hit right because they didn't hit right last year and it screwed them. It didn't. It didn't. All of it.
Well,
didn't
Harden,
but it played a part in it. It played a big part in it because you look at the role players. I don't remember the stat exactly, but it was like the guys that the Nets rotated in the guys the Nets played in the playoffs had like less of the minutes in the regular season. All the regular season minute eaters weren't even playing in the playoffs, and that to me is a big sign that something did not go right. We're like James Johnson, Blake Griffin, Paul Millsap, although he didn't really play as much, but like all the guys they signed, they didn't play in the playoffs. Like, so to me, it's big for the Nets because they got to hit right here and other things have to go correct. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they sign a couple of role players. All their ills are fixed, but it's part of the bigger picture that needs to get developed. And then to answer, if we're going with who has I would say the Nets, based on they have a chance to win a title in the next 5 years, and the Knicks aren't in that conversation right now.
Yeah, not yet, but we'll see what happens this offseason. I'm not going to say something's going to happen, but you never know. They got to deal Julius Randle. They got to deal Mitchell. Well, they don't have to deal. They might deal Mitchell Robinson. And Mitchell Robinson's Instagram post is what really raised some eyebrows, and it's what these phony accounts online are using, like faking their sources that he's gone. But he wrote the other day on Instagram on a story. He goes, "I always been solid no matter what the situation was." See, it's like broken. It's hard to read. I always been solid no matter what situation we was in. Guess it's a one-way stream, not stream, with a peace emoji. Driving 71 miles an hour, which is not very safe. I don't think it's very safe to do something like that. So, taking a picture. But anyway, I do it, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what's going on. So, what is he talking about? Is he talking about the Knicks? Is he just talking about his personal life? People just assume everything's about basketball with these guys. They could just be, he could just be high. Just put something out on Instagram and like, oh yeah, whatever, man, fucking with people. Who cares?
I think people like to fuck with people as well, and yes. I think there's a lot of that with Kyrie where he knows it, and he likes Durant too, where they like to go and mess with people because they know the power that they have where they say something, and it's an hour discussion on any show or podcast.
Yeah,
it's an incredible power.
Really is.
Like if Kevin Durant put out a tweet emoji of like an eggplant, I mean, there'd be like, does this mean he's out? Is he is he now a vegetarian? Is he going vegan? Does that mean
do you know what the eggplant emoji means though?
Yeah, it's a penis.
Okay.
It just popped in. I don't know. It just popped in my head.
Hey, listen, it was your most used, most recent emoji, right?
I don't think I've used the eggplant emoji recently.
I'm big on the fingers and the thumbs up or the hang 10. Do
you want me to do another vegetable? Would that make you happy?
No, it's okay. All
right, let's say he put out a carrot. Is KD going vegan? Is this going to impact the Nets? Can the Nets win a championship if KD's vegan? Like,
KD
seriously,
likes Bugs Bunny and he might be going to Disney. That's it. Yeah.
Is he the new Space Jam? He's doing the new Space Jam. It's Space Jam 3. Was that what that was? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So Mitch doing that. It's going to get people in a tizzy. And he probably likes, like, let's be real, he probably likes the attention. It's nice to be talked about.
Yeah. No,
helps the ego.
I agree. So
all right. I got one from, I guess I'll just read all of these.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is from Eder, who's been on Bad Weather Fans. BKE Cali. Topic on the Jets. Do you agree we grab CB1, WR11, WR1, quarterback 1, wide receiver 1, and running back 1 in the draft? On paper, sure, seems like it. Has to translate on the field now. Also, depends on Zach Wilson.
I agree. I mean, Sauce. So I think it's hard. So we had Sauce, Wilson, and Hall, the cornerback, the wide receiver, and the running back in the draft. And they also traded up and got the defensive end at the end of the first round. So they had 3 first-round picks plus this big running back Hall that they got, and a little later. And it's just, it's so hard for me to be definitive about the Jets since it's been 10 years. It's been the worst drought in like the franchise's history. I think it's worse. This might be worse than this. Well, maybe the 70s. It was pretty bad, 70s to the 80s. But this has been pretty bad. And it's been hard for me to get hyped up again about another new coach, another new quarterback, another new draft pick. But you know what? I do think Sauce is going to be a star. He's a 6'1" corner. He's huge, for a corner. And he didn't give up a touchdown in his last year in college, which is insane. There wasn't one play, so, is he great, or is he like Nandi Asamoah when he was on the Raiders and then people just stopped throwing to him, and then he went to the Eagles and he got exposed? Like, well, this guy wasn't really that great.
He got a huge contract too.
Yeah. So what is he? So we'll see. And Garrett Wilson, he looks incredible as a wide receiver, and Hall could be a good running back. But you know what? It's hard for me to say that we got these guys. Definitely the cornerback 1, wide receiver 1, running back 1. Sure, it's really hard for me to say it because I don't trust this coach. I don't trust the GM. I know he's made some great trades and got a lot of draft picks, but he hasn't hit on a lot of draft picks. So and they keep sucking. Like, they've gotten worse since he's gotten there. So it's just, we'll see what happens. I can't give you a definite answer. I'm sorry. I do love Sauce though. I do love him.
I mean, this is such a big year for the Jets, and especially goes without saying, but for Zach Wilson, year number 2 now, putting more weapons around him, the Jets building up their roster and having a solid draft and in free agency and putting NFL talent on the field. And then for Coach Saleh to be in his second year, have a little more experience. I mean, there were no expectations for the Jets last year. Like, the Giants to me this season are where the Jets were last year. A little bit different because the quarterback thing, Daniel Jones in his 5th season, not a rookie quarterback, but there's no expectations on the Giants. For the Jets, there is looked upon by its fan base, and I won't even talk about media predictions, but from its fan base, people are expecting the Jets to go out and win football games this year. That wasn't an expectation last year. Here they are, where people are expecting the Jets to go out, compete, and put themselves in a position where they are fighting for a playoff spot. So it's week 15, and the Jets are 7-8 or something, and they're in the mix for a playoff spot. There's a lot of expectations there, and there's a lot of hope, I believe, from Jet fans. And all of it does rest on the arm of Zach Wilson. What is he? How does he do now one more year in the fold with the Jets? He showed a lot of good, made a lot of mistakes as a rookie, but got that experience. And this is the time for him, because ultimately, and it's his easy answer, but to me, it's easy because it's obvious. If he sucks, they're fucked. If he's good, they got a shot, right? I mean, and the problem with the AFC is there's so many good quarterbacks now out there. It's loaded. We don't have to go through the list, but it is loaded. But if Zach Wilson makes strides and progresses, and you're like, okay, we got this quarterback. We've got a roster. And we don't even need him to be, you don't need him to go out there and be the second coming of Russell Wilson. But if he can just be, and I don't want to say, I don't want to say game manager, because I hate that. But he's just a good NFL quarterback. They're going to be better. It's just, they drafted well. He's there, and then away we go. But, I mean, that's what makes this Jet season so interesting, is there's so much potential there, but it's so unknown, and so much of Jets bullshit of failure in the past that it's always in the back of the head. It will be interesting to see what does happen here in Wilson's second season in New York.
Yeah, and the whole thing also, I can't get excited about his second half of the season. It's Sam Darnold PTSD, because at the end of Sam Darnold's rookie season, the month of December, the last month of the year, he had the highest quarterback rating in the NFL. And I was the whole offseason, I'm like, he's turning the corner. This is him. And he showed flashes, and it's a dud. So, sad. I really need to see wins in order for me to get excited about the Jets. And the Jets sucking has really taken my love of football overall away from me, because they've been bad for so long that I don't even have those seasons where I get super into the Jets. They're over by, October.
It sucks.
It's not even like, give me an 8-8 or 8-7 year, or 9-7, whatever the fucking 17.
10-7 now.
10-7.
We can do math here.
Yeah, I can't do math. No.
All right, if you have 4 wins, how many losses would you have?
13.
All right, 5.
You know how I did that? I was like, oh, there was 4 and 12 used to be, so let me add 1.
Just add 1. That's what you'll do now, right? All right, if you have 0 wins on a 17-game season, how many losses?
17. There.
Don't look it up.
Yes, thanks. So there's my answer with the Jets. I'm very down on them. That's my answer. So, but I do love Sauce. That's my guy.
Here we go. Last one. It's from Last Kingdom Gumdon. Last King Gumdon. Okay.
Just spell it out.
No. All right. Build a team or build a team around a player, which is better. Miami the last few years has stepped away from we need a superstar to having collective of players who are great at their roles. Or build around your superstars like the Bucks. Strike gold and once and then have to retool. I have a very passionate answer about this.
So go.
Would you want to go first? You would like
No, you
me
go.
to go
I want to hear your
first?
passionate answer. I'll answer.
The answer is any combination works. It doesn't matter. Whatever works to get a championship. Look throughout the history of sports, and this is not a cop out to this. It doesn't matter. Okay, the Milwaukee Bucks did not win the championship this year. I wouldn't put it on because the super team experiment failed. I would put it on because Chris Middleton was hurt and didn't give them a chance to do it. Now you might say, well, that's part of the game. Yes, but I wouldn't look at like the roster construction was so poor they didn't have a chance. It's just they ran into a better team. You know, the Milwaukee Bucks next season, they'll make some changes. They'll be in the mix to win a title. Look at all the teams that have won championships recently. The Bucks last year had their big three. The Warriors with everything. LeBron James. It works. The truth is the super team thing works. This idea that it doesn't is false and incorrect. Now, has it worked for the Nets yet? It has not. But history of the NBA says it does work. So I'm not opposed to like that's the way to do it or that isn't the way to do it. You want to know why the Lakers didn't win a championship this year? Because Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James aren't the super 3T guys that they were in 2016. They're old, they were exposed, and they were hurt a lot. That's a different reasoning. But if you look through the history of the NBA, it works. That doesn't mean I'm not opposed to let's build it with a core team. I mean, the Heat are loaded and deep, and they have a lot of good to great players. So it can work in either way. I don't think you have to get stuck on I only go this direction or I only go that. I think it's about getting good players that play and show up in big spots. How if you want to define that as the super three of them or four very good ones, I don't think it matters. It's just all what hits that year.
That's a good point. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. I feel like fans have this general thought that it's more fun to build a team up from scratch with draft picks and build them, and then your guys, you watch them grow and you know who they are as players, and they're not like hired guns. But then you're, as a Nets fan, you got your hired guns and you're like, you love them just as much if they were coming from that you drafted them, so there's two ways to look at it there. And if the example again, I bring it back to the Warriors built their team quote unquote the right way, and we still all hated them. They drafted Steph, they drafted Clay, they didn't tank per se. I mean, they tried. Sometimes they sort of tanked, but then they went and drafted for like they said, forget fit. They drafted the best player available when they already had Monta Ellis, and that was Steph Curry, which screwed the Knicks. We all know that story, and the rest is history, man. And you get the right coach in there, Mark Jackson, to develop them. You get the next right coach there, Steve Kerr, to manage the egos, and away they went. So there's no right way to do it. And, so to get back to my point was that the Warriors did it the quote unquote right way, and we still all hated them because they were so good. So you can't win. There's no right way to do it with fan perception. Fans are going to hate whoever's the best no matter what. But I do think that it's more fun. It is more fun, for me personally, to watch these young Knicks as opposed to, watching somebody like Julius Randle fail. When he fails and he falls on his face, you're like, oh, get this guy the hell out of here. When as a guy like Obi Toppin has a bad game, you're like, all right, you know what? He's going to turn it around. It's just, you give your younger guys a little bit of a longer leash, so it's
true.
Feel more of a connection. I feel like a little bit more of a connection.
True on that front. And which way does it win it better? We don't, like I said before, it doesn't make a difference. But if I said to the Knicks fan here, okay, here's what's going on. Embiid wants out. Okay. And it looks like the Knicks are going to get Embiid. They're going to have to give up RJ Barrett in a separate deal. Listen to this. It looks like Morant's coming. You got Morant and Embiid, and all these other players want to join. You okay with giving up RJ Barrett?
See ya. Exactly.
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, like,
I'm
not saying Embiid's coming or that scenario would work.
Of course.
But if there was Embiid's, I got to be a Knick, and they're like, we got to give up Barrett, but you have Embiid, and then another stars player's coming, and now you have Embiid and a guard, and okay.
Yeah. No, I
You
I
move
hear you.
on.
I hear you. It was like when Dwight Howard was leaving the Magic. He didn't want to leave, and then he decided to stay. And he got the standing ovation in Orlando, and then the next year he was gone. You know what I mean?
God,
It's just like
his scenarios.
he was like they were
Crazy.
cheering him like he was a hero. Like, what do you do, man? You took a 1-year deal, you know, the kind of a thing, or you re-upped, whatever it was. I don't remember.
It's
The
so weird
specific-
to think he's still in the NBA with like the Lakers.
He's a Hall of Famer
and-
too, man. Easy Hall of Famer, which is crazy.
Yeah,
You know,
I would say so. I
Such a
would say
crazy
so.
career, but and he
Strange
ruined
one.
our dream Kobe versus LeBron matchup in the finals by him and Rashard Lewis.
Yeah.
And they beat the Cavs back in the day. They
Jeez,
had
that
the
was-
puppets and the commercials. They were ready. Kobe, LeBron. They were banking on that. And we needed that, man. That's
Yeah. I was you sent me this they were asked about Kenyon Martin asking about like the difference between LeBron and
the
Kobe.
Breakfast Club. Yeah, asked
Yeah,
Martin,
and Kenyon saying LeBron wouldn't dunk on centers.
yeah.
But then you see in that video, there's like a 25 dunks of him doing it. Just crazy. I haven't watched young LeBron videos in a little bit. There was
He was
something else.
insane. Remember that Pistons game when he would like just took over the game, scored like 25 straight points or something? He was insane, you know. And it's unfair, and that just goes to you can't win as stars or big players in this or big teams in this league or in this era because LeBron went to the finals literally 10 straight years, and people think he's a scrub. Like talk about him like he's a scrub. You'll never be Jordan. Like okay, so what does that mean? That you suck? Like you'll never be God, Mike. You can try, but you'll never be God. So you're a scrub.
It's also he's playing till he's 37, 38 years old now. I mean, he
Still
is
putting up numbers. Yeah.
It's not like he's Jordan coming back when he did with Washington was not even close to the same. I would say the LeBron now to the LeBron prime is way closer if they were to touch each other than prime Michael and Wizards Michael. And don't say that's because prime Michael was so much superior than prime LeBron. No, it's because of how much he fell off. Unlike LeBron, who is just still a physical specimen, an incredible athlete. I mean, he's putting up numbers for his age that is the only other guys like Tom Brady. Like this doesn't happen.
Yeah, and Michael Jordan. I don't want to get into this old stale Jordan LeBron debate, but Michael Jordan also had a lot of rest years where he went and played baseball for a year and a half, and then after on the back end of the second Chicago three-peat. He was off for a couple of years and went to the Wizards, and he still wasn't as good as LeBron looks right now. So there's a lot there, and we're not gonna be able to fully debate the two until they're all gone. And I really hate this debate so much. It's so unfair to LeBron. And I'm not a big fan of his anymore. I used to really root for him when he was in Cleveland. And then obviously I got down on him when he went to Miami. Then when by the back end of his Miami tenure, I'm like, why do I still hate this guy? The Knicks suck. This guy is like, let me just appreciate greatness.
Right. And then what he did for Cleveland was,
yeah.
I think all of us were rooting for the Cavs versus the 73 win Warriors that year when they won in 7. I mean, that was my favorite non-Nets NBA Finals that I've got into.
The Mavs. The Mavs beating the first Heat team.
That was a good one. That was a really good one too.
Yeah.
That was
the Mavs. Yeah.
That was a fun one. When
LeBron was trying to post up JJ Barea and couldn't, he was just out of his element, and we were all rooting for that. But once that year was done, we got our laughs, and then he won his 2 titles. I'm like, why do I still hate this guy?
That was his low. He's talked about that where he was like, that was an experience for me where I learned I had to get better. That's what I'm hoping with the Nets. Like that same mindset.
Kyrie's a little older than what LeBron was then, right?
No, I know. Yeah. Well, Kyrie's 30? Probably not that much older.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a little bit. It's hard to keep track because of how long LeBron's been.
Well, how long do you?
He would have been 26 or something.
How long is your rookie contract? I was going to say, and then has he extended? Whatever.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who cares?
So he's probably 25, 26 if you had to do the math based on coming out of high school, 5 years, whatever.
And he took his talents to South Beach.
Yeah, he's mid 20s. Damn, that's young. He was Bruce Brown.
He was Bruce Brown.
He was the Bruce Brown of that age.
Mentioned in the same sentence. Yes, the two of them.
He's the Bruce Brown of that era. All right, this has been Bad Weather Fans. We will do a more in-depth, detailed mailbag. We'll give options for people. I think it was fun interacting with our fans because we have so many good Bad Weather fans. Don't forget, you can find this podcast video-wise on YouTube and type in Bad Weather Fans, and that way you can see the video version of this pod. Anything else, Alex, you wanted to get off your chest or end with before we put 118 in the books? I was hoping this would be about the Nets Eastern Conference Finals run. It is not. They suck.
I'll leave you with the Warriors are winning it all. Doesn't matter who they play in the finals.
Who
The
would you
Warriors are
root
winning it
for? Warriors, Heat.
all. Warriors. Crazy.
Is there something about the Heat that bother you?
Yes, a few things.
You think? Yeah, I would. I would probably root for. I don't know. I'd have to see it. Sometimes I don't know the answer until I'm watching it, and then I can give an emotion. Have you ever had that happen where you're like, I don't know who I want, and then you watch it, and the shot goes in, and you're cheering or you're upset?
Yeah,
Like it
no,
just, yeah.
definitely. And with the Warriors, it's crazy. This will be the first finals that Steph Curry and Dre have been in, and they're not playing the Cavs, which is kind
That's
of crazy,
insane.
right?
I never thought about that. That's a really interesting point.
So
Wow, that is crazy. That is, I mean, one of my favorite NBA games of all time was Cavs Warriors game 1, where LeBron put up 50
hmm,
in one of the greatest performances I've ever seen from somebody. And then they just fucked up the ending and the J.R. Smith inbound stuff.
mhm.
Like that to me was one of my favorite. After that game, LeBron was
it was
like,
over.
He walked to the press. He was so pissed.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite games I've ever watched as a fan.
After that, he was like, "I'm just getting my stats. We're not winning this because they blew a game to that team. They're like, we have no shot. We needed that one to have a chance,
right?"
now
Basically,
we're
so
done.
he's like, "All
Yeah.
right, I can take game 2 off. It's
Yeah.
1-1. Can we go back to Cleveland and get that juice back?" He's like, "Nah,
Yeah.
I'm done."
Yeah,
He was like, "I'm done.
We're not winning.
I'm going to the Lakers."
We're not winning 4 or 5 from the Warriors.
No, not
No
happening.
chance. Yeah.
All right. This has been Bad Weather Fans,
Mhm.
ep 118. Listen on YouTube, watch on YouTube, subscribe, download. We have more great guests coming this summer, and we'll get that mailbag episode going down the road as well. It'll be a lot of fun. This has been Bad Weather Fans. Thank you all for listening. Alex, have a great rest of your week.
You too, Mike.
Thank you.